Go to TAPgiles.com to learn dreams, engage my services, and support the channel. In MM's latest community get-together thingy, there's an effect I thought I'd have a look at trying to recreate. It's the elevator buttons and stuff. I really like the way that kind of animates in. It kind of bobs like that, and it seems to go up and down depending on if it's going higher or lower, and then you press play or exit to exit and stuff. So we'll have a variable, and the minimum was 1, and make the maximum 20. So we'll call it floor. And then here we're going to modify that variable with a variable modifier. To add 1, we'll just output this to make sure it's doing something. Cool. And then I'll make another button, so -1, and it will add a -1. Cool. It's meant to start on 1. Cool. So what we want to happen is it's going to display some numbers up here. So I'll just make some more stuff. I'll just copy this actually. Cool. So this will just have a number in it. So I'll just use a number displayer in the scene. And this block will just adjust this number and like animate and stuff. So first thing is we'll just assume it's like 1 digit maximum, so we can set this next bit up. And the variables actually have this increased and decreased output. So if I just show when those send stuff. So we'll just do that and do that. So when I increase, it's pulsing through that increased one, and decrease, it sends it through the decreased one. So then that can trigger this animation stuff. So we want to kind of have this animate down if it's decreasing, and then come in from the top again with the new number. So over here I'll animate it. Let's do that, and then so that will move. Yeah, so let's just be clear. It'll move down to there from the middle. So middle down, and then it'll appear at the top and then go to the middle again. So we'll grab that again. Do that. So if I play that, it'll do that. So let's click on the clock time to make it into beats mode, which means I get more useful columns, and I'll just line those up. That. So yeah, so it needs to just go really fast, I think. So let's use L1 and right on the timeline to zoom in, and now you see these extra tiny columns, which there's 30 of them in in a second. So this is every logic frame. So we get very precise timing down here. Cool. So that's animating down. When you want to animate up, we can play this in reverse. So we're actually going to play this instead of using the timeline itself. We're going to control it using a timer, and that'll let us play it forwards and backwards. The idea is you can actually send a percentage value into the playhead and give it any percent, and if I just pin that to the screen, give it any percent and it will just go to that point in the timeline. So 100% is the right end and the 0% is at the left end. So if you use a timer, you can actually get a percentage that changes over time from the timer output. So we wire that in, and now it's going up over time. So if we wire that into the playhead, then it will play over time. But we can have, like, you can set the how long it takes to go through the whole thing with this target time. So we can make it super fast, like that. So let's have these triggers coming in. Yeah, so when we go down, we want that to go there. So when we go down, we want to set it to the beginning and have it play to the end. So we'll have it go, we'll have some states as to what's going on using a selector. So a selector has many channels, and only one of them could be active and sending a signal at a time, but then you can use that signal to power other things. So we'll have 3 states, I think, which will be A. A is always the default, so we'll leave that being like nothing is happening. And then we'll set it to B when we want to move down. So a few things will have to happen. So let's put it in a timeline and set it to once mode. This means when it gets powered, it will just play from the beginning to the end. So it's useful for logic like this. So I'll use L1 and right on the D-pad again. So at the start we want to set the timer's current time, to being 0. So I'll just do that. And we'll have that keep changes, which means it will set it to 0 and then leave it at 0 after it gets past this in the timeline. We'll also set it to play forwards. So you can actually give it the speed you want it to use. So if we gave it a speed of 1, then it will play forwards. If we gave it a speed of -1, it will play backwards. So to do that, we set it to speed mode, and I'll just use this slider that we had here and give it a wider range. And now we can wire that in. If I just show you what happens, if I give it a positive, it starts playing forwards. And if we give it a negative, it starts playing backwards. And like, you give it a slow one or a fast speed or whatever. So leave it at 0 and give it a name. Leave it at 0 and we'll set it to being -1. Actually, we can just pop that out of there. So in this keyframe, I've set the start time to 0 and the speed time to -1. Or we actually want that to be 1. So let's set through that keyframe. But we want to pulse that just as an instantaneous thing at the start and then let it play as normal. Otherwise this will constantly be setting the current time to 0. So let's put it through a signal manipulator and put it into pulse mode, which means it will turn on and off really fast when it changes to B. So if I just grab a switch, then I can use that to test. So when I turn it on, it does the thing and plays through like that. and then when it gets to the end of this timeline, it should kind of reset everything. The problem is you can't use like on end trigger because that's when the playhead gets to this end. But what if it was playing backwards like this? It wouldn't trigger anymore. So we'll use the actual timer output, and we basically just want to know when it gets to 1, which will be at the end of the timer, or 0 at the beginning of the timer. Either way, we'll set it back to this A state, which is nothing's happening. So we'll use a signal manipulator in custom remapper mode, and it has these edge modes, which is when the incoming signal goes from off to on or on to off. And you want both of those, because that will be when it goes from less than 1 to 1 or more than 0 to 0. So we use this pulse that's on or off, and that's what that will do. And we can just wire that into there. So now when we play, it triggered it back to the 0 or to the resting state where no animation is happening. So now let's do it for increasing. So we'll have an up node, and put that into C, and then we'll have a similar setup here, but we'll set the timer to the end and the speed to -1, so it will skip to the end of the timeline and play backwards. So let's try that now. So if we open that as well, so now it's playing backwards to the start and then going to the resting state again. And what we want to do when it starts from here, when it gets to the middle, is when, like at this point, we actually want to, that keyframe is setting it to the bottom and that keyframe is setting it to the top. So it's actually averaging out and putting it in the middle, but we want it to actually get there. So let's just move that across. So when it gets to here, then we want to make it display the new number instead of the old number. So for that we need to actually get this number. So again, we're just assuming it's going to be a single value. Okay, and then if we just wire that in, I'm just copying the variable modifier over here so that I can debug with that as well. So this is adding 1 when I turn on that switch, so let's add 1, and it's now showing 2, but it's showing that number before it's animated across. So we want to kind of hold on to the number until the right time. So for that we will use a signal manipulator, wire that in there. So it has this feature called freeze output. So if I just have a number displayer on the screen, we can see what that does. Put it in the top right. So now it's frozen. If we like add a few times, the variable now says 5 and it's coming in, but the output is frozen to whatever it was before. Now if we turn off freeze output, now it's saying the 5. So that's what we want to do. We want to unfreeze it just at this point. So we'll leave it frozen, and we'll just put a keyframe in there unfreezing it. And then it'll immediately go to frozen again after this point, which will keep whatever value it got while it was unfrozen. So now let's play. We'll have to make this a lot slower just for testing. So if we put it to a second maybe, and make sure that goes to the end. So we actually want to use that here. And now let's try it. Yeah, so it's kind of changing once it gets to the top, or once it gets to the bottom, depending on if it's adding or subtracting. So let's make that subtract. Try that. So then it's changing when it gets to the top. The problem now is it's like changing at the top instead of the bottom when we are adding, because it's going backwards, so it's getting to this point before it's switched to the opposite side. So we want to have 2 of these, and only allow 2 of these that are different on timing wise. So if we're going forwards, which is the down version, which is mode B, then we want that one to be powered. And then we'll have another one, and when we go backwards, which is when we're increasing the number, then we want to do that later, like that. So now let's see if that works. Yeah, so it changes at the bottom, but because it's because this is so slow now, it's going to be hard to tell if it's changing up, because it's actually moving very slowly across these and keeping them active when they shouldn't be active and stuff. So let's just put that back to the quick time. Okay, and I'll have one for decrease. Cool, but the thing is, it's more than 1 digit, so we'll kind of do some tricksy stuff. So the actual floor number, that is the number it's going to display, will be 1 variable, but from there we'll have other variables, which will be the floor unit and the floor tens, or however you want to put it. So this can go to 0 and up to 9, and this will constantly be setting that. So instead of taking it from the floor, we'll take it from this. So this was the value, and this was when it goes down. This is when it goes up. And so we'll just put that over here, and we can make those so through nodes, so they don't actually have stuff coming out the side of it, of the chip. Cool, and then we'll constantly be setting that to the units of this, the like single digits. So let's use a calculator to find that. Where we remainder after dividing by 10. And then we'll use a modifier to continuously set it to full unit to that number, and then we'll have one for the next one over. So let's just delete that stuff. So here's another one, and that one will have a different variable name, and will be set in a similar way. But this one would divide by 10 and then get the round down. And that will set the floor tens. Cool, so we get to 10 and when we get to 20. Cool, and then we can go down again. And the cool thing about this is you can have +5 and +10 if you want to, very easily. So if we do +5, and that will add 5. subtract 5. Subtract 5. Now adding 5 and subtract 5. You may notice though it starts on 0, 0, but the lowest floor is 1. So when you add 1, then it updates to 2. So we actually want to kind of unfreeze right at the start, just for a moment, so that it gets the real values. So I'll just have a timeline over here. And zoom in again. And a keyframe right at the start, just for a frame, which will unfreeze both of these. That one. So that will just happen right at the start, and now you can see the actual real numbers. And even if you keep pressing these, nothing will happen beyond that range that's actually allowed, because that's just how the variable works. So we've set it to the lowest being 1 and the highest being 20, and you can just change that to whatever. Yeah.
Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something interesting. Go to patreon.com/TAPgiles to learn something new every day.